take a picture with a smartphone and send it to the agency and get their claims. Yeah. And I'm very happy to see Piyush again after some time.
Pleasure is mine, sir. Pleasure is indeed mine, sir.
Thank you, friends. We'll go to the second part now, which is the training. Actually, we found that most of the people stay for full time because they, at least more than 50% want training. And unfortunately, it's a very short time. We already told. We'll try our best for the next 3 lectures to give basic idea for you, what all you must learn. So we go back again, what we did in the last 4 lectures, very quick. We'll go for 5 minutes to refresh and we'll connect it together. So this is what we talked applications, what we are going to do, the agriculture water pumps, and we're talking about greenhouse, polyhouse, and we come to integrated farming, how it can, we have to have the electronics and embedded electronics to come into picture. Then we thought we had to talk about networking. There's a communication for the equipment, which everybody is now talking about. Then we told what all required to cover. We went, I'll go fast because we covered most of them. We thought a lot of topics. First day we told, this all we are going to cover in this training program. Then we talked, the first topic we talked about electricity. What is electricity? We compared it with actually how the electricity is generated. It's a movement of electrons. We learned, then we learned about how to compare it with our hydraulics. So easy to understand, liters per minute amperes. Then we came to generation, where we had to learn about, because we are going to have photovoltaic generation in the farm slowly, and we are having a lot of solar pumps we have. Then we learned about what is AC and 3-phase and DC, we learned a little bit. And then we talked about where we use the inverters. There's a BLDC motors and new technology what we have. In drones we are using, for example. Then we talked about, when we talk about power and the electricity generation, we have to look at what is the losses are there. So we talked about the losses, power factor, and how the power factor runs through. Then we have to measure the power, how much power is generated, whatever it is, like solar, whatever may be, AC power. So how to measure it, we learned. How to protect, we learned about. And lightning happening, yesterday, Dr. Sidhu was talking about in the field when he lost. So this is where the protection must have been taken for that lightning. Then probably could have been solved. Then we talked about other protections, electrical protection circuits, which normally we should know. Then we talk about tools again. So what are the soldering and everything? Yesterday, somebody asked about how fast you can manufacture this, or how in a lab we can, like I think Dr. Murthy was asking. So these are all the things, stencil printer and pick and place. You can buy at very affordable cost and you can have in your own laboratory to use it. And these are all some equipments we require. These all slides we will share afterwards, so you will have an idea what you should know about it. We come back to next one is very important, is the basic electronics we learned. What is a resistor? It's a fixed resistance. Inductor is a resistance will vary. Capacitor, we talk about transformer. Then we talk about diode is a valve, a simple unidirectional valve. Then we talk about pressure relief valve, this is Zener diode. So then we talked about the transistor. A transistor is an amplifier. Okay, it's an amplifier which is NP and PNP. We talked a little bit. The gain is not linear in transistor. Then transistor used, for example, controlling motors, all these things. Then we came to SCR or a triac, how the AC motors are all controlled, the speed control. We came to linear amplifiers. We used in the board of linear amplifiers also, this operational amplifiers. Then we use the power supplies, switch mode power supply and normal power supply we learned. Then we talked about digital electronics, that is a logic gates. Then we talked about latches, flip-flops to store the information. Then we talk about counters, multiplexes. Multiplexes, yesterday we saw also multiplexes, demux, demultiplexes. Then we talk about isolation transformer data to come from outside, or you have a different technique of isolation we talked about. Then analog to digital, digital to analog conversions. Then you about voltage to frequency conversion, frequency to voltage conversion. This was the presentation. Then we talked about little bit about understanding what is a microcontroller, how to select. For example, today Sony told, for this purpose Arduino we use, and this purpose I prefer for the data transmission and everything. Probably I should have used a Raspberry Pi. So this is the knowledge I want the people to have. So that is the level of understanding you should have, or at least you'll remember tomorrow Raspberry Pi Arduino words from this particular program webinar we are having. Now this we learned yesterday also. We talked about memory. What is memory is there? What is the communication required? Local communication. For example, I2C and SPI, and long distance communication you have like UART. Okay, we talked about what is important. And then we talk about Arduino is a small application, 8-bit controller. It can be used very cheap, very easy to program. Then we talked about system on chip with Wi-Fi. So yesterday we saw an application using this particular one. Then we talked a little bit about introduction about why we have to use Raspberry Pi. It is a bigger one. It's a small computer inside. For an agricultural application, many applications, Raspberry Pi would be ideal. For example, polyhouse and all, when you go, you don't require a PLC. You don't require to invest on a PLC. You can use a Raspberry Pi because it's easy for universities to learn. Manufacturing, people will take different decisions. If I'm going to manufacture, I will not use Raspberry Pi. That is not a problem. But for the institutes, for research students to learn, you can use Raspberry Pi. Now, yesterday we linked it with one of the examples what he told. We made a small presentation yesterday, how it is linked with a sensor module as well as actuator, where the exact components what we learned are being used. Here, this board I want to show again, because today what we are going to talk is going to be relating to this particular board. So this is the system on chip, which has got a memory, which has got a local bus of I2C. For example, I2C is used to connect to the pressure, temperature, humidity sensor. So that interface is available here. This also can have a storage, EEPROM. We can store counters, all those stuff. This has got a multiplexer to read from multiple sensors. For example, I got only one UART. I got 4 sensors. They are using UART. Then I have to multiplex them. So whatever is 4, one by one, I have to scan and take the data and store it. So here is use multiplexer, for example. Here is using an operational amplifier, what we learned till now. Here is a relay. Relay, I told, relay can actually actuate something power. It can turn on a light. It can turn on a pump. This can turn on a pump. How big a pump? 5 amperes pump, this particular one. But actually in the application what BISA used, they are not using, this relay will trigger another bigger relay. They already have an irrigation system. This will trigger another one. So we have to learn these components now today we see. Here we saw a OLED display. This is a LCD display, what we call. This is actually OLED, organic LED, what we have most of the modern, most expensive cell phones also have that. Otherwise, very expensive OLED. They don't have a backlit. There's no light coming from back. So each cell will itself start lighting. Actually, light is generated from each one. So this advantage OLED is a little bit expensive. It is not LED TV. It's different. We'll learn all these things in this session. So we started about process of schematic. We need a person. Three levels we saw it. Once I have an idea, I want to do something like that. Then I have to select the approximate component with a technical person and tell him, you design this component. This is a feature I want to have. This is a precautions you must take. Okay. And he will design this. Then I have to catch somebody to write. Second part is a program for it. So sorry, I'm not showing this. So second part, the first part is to make the PCBs like this. You have the PCB. Second one is to capture the guy and tell him, you have the right program so that this board will start functioning. For example, this is another board. What we have, this is for tracking the seeder. How much seeder is covering the area. This can go anywhere, not only for. So this application to write, you have to get a GPS signal. You have to store it and transfer the data. This program must be written by somebody. This is second. Third one is important is this data I want online on cloud. So I have to need another programmer or a person to decide what type of system I want on the cloud and which is better for me. So this is what we have to learn as a middle management to understand what technology available in the cloud, what technology available. So yesterday we covered a little bit of I showed an example of Arduino for the middle level, which means the program to function for this. Here in this example, for example, I don't use an Arduino program. It's a C program of a embedded processor, very small processor we use here. The processor has only 32 kilobytes memory. That is the example here. Whereas the actuator as well as sensor node, which is used there, we are using actually a C++ program using the ESP8266. That is a system on chip. Now we come back now. The other peripherals, input output device. This is today input output which are used. Now the first one we see is a display. The one is LED. LED is a very easy. You can read in the night without any problem. So you must have seen the display. Next one is popular is dot matrix LCD. You have 2 lines, 4 lines, and you have so many characters, 20 characters. It can go to 40 characters. Then you have the graphic LCD display. So graphics, different types, different size, shapes are available. The cost. This will come probably the lowest cost, what you have the LED. So you must design any system what you're having, what type of display you want to give. So you must I want you to understand there are different options available to you to use it. That's all. We also have OLED. I told you organic LED, which actually comes from the cell itself when you start. There is no backlit. These are all the other ones. You need a light from the backlit. Like your TV, you have all of them. LED TVs have a backlit. The backlit is using LED, not the fluorescent lights. That's the reason it's called LED TV. But they are not using OLED in the TV. So these will be very prohibitively expensive. Like some of the cell phone, very few of them have high-ended. They have this OLED. You have the moving display. These are all used in different purposes. Then we come to the second type of interface that we have to understand is the input. We need some human interface. You have to physically input something, a switch. He has to press a switch. There are different types, toggle switch, we know already, slider switch. And reed switch is very important, is very useful. It's actually a magnetic switch. So you can connect a magnet nearby, the switch will operate. So door is closing, door is opening, any of the activities you can use a reed switch. You have the keypad. There are different types of keys, a matrix way it works. When you press button, it will go automatically into the keypad. You have a latest technology of capacitive keypads also available, which you can just touch with your finger. But you have to be careful with the capacitive type. If you wear gloves, thick gloves, they may not work. So capacitive is the one, for example, all your cell phones are having. That is a capacitive keypad. Capacitive keypad is only directly printed on the PCB board itself, and a layer is given on the top. We come to the third type. You see, first we saw display. Second one we saw keyboard inputs. Third one we see output. Here. This output is interesting, relays. The relays are from microcontroller. You want to connect 220 volts motor. How will you connect? You connect 220 volts motor to the, here is the, for example, this is the AC. You put here, you connect the load here. And another 2 parts will go to the microcontroller where you have a transistor that will switch, which we learn. Transistor or something will switch this relay. So relay is like mechanical here. You see here, this is a DC coil. So 12 volts or something is given. It closes here, and here these two are contacts. Now this is contacted with a center point. This is a center point here going. Okay, this is a center point here. Going here, it's connected here. When this actuates, you give a signal, this will pull it, so this will connect with this. So your relay is used for this, basically to control motors, pumps, whatever you have. You have different size of relays. This is mechanical relay. This is very popular. And you see, this is sugar cube we call. Don't use in agricultural purposes. Every hobby fellow will use this. Don't use in our applications. Because problem, the construction of this particular relay it's very noisy environment. It can give a lot of noises. And in agriculture, we can't afford to take risks because it's unattended and we require that. So the cost is not much. You use another relay, which are not the sugar cube structure. It's a relay how it is construction inside. Those who are interested can go and read about it, but avoid using the sugar cube type of relays, which are very cheap comparative to this one. I would say price of this may be 10 rupees, 12 rupees. This may be 25, 30 rupees. So price is not much. But your designer will put a wrong one, this one, and you'll have problem probably after 6 months or after maximum 1 year. So you don't use it. So this is very important part when you design something which is work. Next one, you have a solid state relay, which is non-mechanical, only using a track. You see, this is a track, and this is what we see is the optocoupler, which we already saw one of the components. You don't worry about it. This is using only solid state. Solid state, what is the drawback? If any shorting is there, it will blow up immediately. So you have to be careful. With a mechanical relay, at least, it will last some more time. But with the solid state, it will immediately break up. So that you have to be a little bit careful on that. Now, second, what we see next one is another output type is LEDs. We know all LEDs. All of us use daily. It's very easy. And you can use RGB as LEDs. Here comes another device what we require in agriculture, which is almost not available. Especially yesterday, Gita, he told this, the hydraulic operated valves. You see, I'll tell you the agricultural, this type of valves you must have seen first, the brass type. It's a valve, solenoid valves used in industry. It is used in home appliances, wherever you can use automatic. They are used in washing machine also. So these are all valves which ball valve or butterfly, whatever you want to configure it, is electrically operated. You have motorized also. You can put a motor there. It will close and open a valve. These are all good. But agriculture, when we go 2-inch, the pipe size. Here the size is 2-inch and 3-inch size will be difficult. In drip irrigation, the pressure is very high. You cannot close and open a valve. So these valves, India, even though people say they manufacture, few of them, I was really looking to find the prices, and there is a person available. Several people in India claim, but to me, it looks all are imported from China. And without this, the drip irrigation cost is very, very prohibitive because of this. And what it does is, they use the incoming pressure. There's a diaphragm actually. Incoming line pressure itself will actually close or open the valve. That pressure you're using, it's like the, what you call, lever arm principle, what you have, gain. So they use a hydraulic gain, the same pressure. There's a small chamber inside, very small chamber. In that chamber, when the water is allowed to go, then it goes on the other opposite side and gives the pressure to operate this. So closing and opening is done by hydraulic pressure. Only actuating a small chamber is done by electrical. So this is possible, but you cannot make a solenoid valve for 3-inch, and current is very high. So this particular one, there are several designs, this one and this one. All of them, you can use it. So different construction technique. They are costing, for example, 3,000 to 4,000 rupees, 5,000 rupees. Some people sell for 8,000 rupees, depending on the size. So if you look at a small drip irrigation farmer, he will require about, let's say, 1 acre. I assume he will need at least 7, 8, could be reduced to 6. He needs that laterals he requires, main line he requires. So starting from 1.5 inch, 2 inch, and 2.5 inch, 3 inch you may require. So when the total cost goes very high. But the same can be probably, I think this must be taken up by somebody research how to do it. And probably the price can come down to somewhere about 1,000 to 2,000 rupees, probably best. You also have a latch type, which means you give us electrical signals short time, then it will remain open. And again, a short time, it will close. This is excellent, especially about one of the speakers was talking about power availability in the farm. Okay, it's a problem. Drip irrigation, for example, of course, India is not a problem. When I see in the field irrigation, it's not an issue because power comes in the night, then only you can operate also. But what you talked about poly houses you are doing, then you require daytime also power. So probably a latch solution, you can operate it through battery also, and battery gets charged when the power comes. So these valves have to be prioritized. It is similar to this I told yesterday about soil moisture sensor. which is also very critical for automation. But beginning automation is we require for drip irrigation. I tell you the reason why I emphasize is the importance for scientists to work on a valve which is economically viable. For example, a ball valve, which is used doing the same thing, 2-inch valve, is costing 80-90 rupees for the farmer, manually to operate and close. When he goes for using this electrical valve, it costs him 8,000 rupees, 7,000 rupees. So you see the difference of pricing. And so that is a problem. Most of the people cannot do automatic, semi-automatic irrigation. So it's not efficient. Just imagine the problem what it's creating now. A banana farmer, he's putting fertigation, I asked, once in a month, some farmers. Some farmer once in 15 days. Once in a week he's doing fertigation. So I studied about what is the growth rate, how much the production comes from the, if you do fertigation daily or alternate days, compared to you do fertigation once in 15 days. It's about 30%, 40% more. You can find out the data. You need a food daily, like some other speaker was talking. You need food daily. So they cannot do this because nighttime they cannot go to each place and operate manually. Even they have to close the irrigation pipe, they have to go and do the fertigation in the night. So if you have the automatic solution, this is the prime factor for the cost. So I think the people who are listening, anybody can work on it. There are enough information available. I will share with them. We can work. Next one is output. Solenoid valve motors. Motors are also heavily used in agricultural application. You will use a DC motor and DC generator. For example, you want to use in the seeder, we made a tracker device. The tracker device works for 2 days only. But seeder, you want a generator power, so you need a dynamo. You need a generate from the mechanical system of seeder, a dynamo to work and generate power, so you can use it 24 hours day and night. So we are looking for a small generator, which was not available. Very, very difficult to get because all of them break down. So motors and generators for agricultural purpose we need. See, how are you going to measure rototiller? I'm telling a lot of examples to you. A rototiller, I want to measure the performance. Rototiller, first of all, of course, I need information from tractor also. But rototiller, how many hours it has worked? Because whatever guarantee or warranty you are giving on the blades, because how many hours it worked. We require the RPM, rototiller, how fast it is working. So then we have to adjust also traveling speed, forward traveling speed based on the rototiller RPM. So it will not push, neither it will pull. So all these things we require electrical devices to be generated. Now we use again induction motors in pumps. All the agriculture pumps use induction motor, three-phase motor. And we know I sent people who was designed in the institute who designed the pump starter. This is the first one in India happened. For 10 years, somebody starts giving, you give a SMS, it will start your pumps. From Pune, somebody started. It's a very, very good move because you need not walk for 10 kilometers, 5 kilometers. But unfortunately, it took time. Now people are, I met some people, they are talking and like Gujarat and all, they are talking, we buy from Coimbatore because the person shows me the app, this about a couple of months back, where you can see the pump is running, how many amperes it takes. Just imagine the farmer, he is not an engineer. How many amperes it takes, and he says the one phase is missing, 3 phase you don't get, one phase is missing, so it will automatically stop, or I have to interfere here, and this overloading, so it will stop, and dry run. I don't know, I met afterwards so many of our agricultural engineers, many of them don't understand this. I mean, so I think we have to put these things into it. The motor control is very easy, but then we have to know most of the universities who are designed also only electronic people help. Agriculture engineers must, this is very important for agriculture. Now coming back, next one is the BLDC motors. This control and design, there are some people manufacturing recently BLDC motors, last 1 year in India. This is drones when you want to use robotics. Especially I see a lot of scope in India in robotics, especially for weeding. Weeding is a big challenge. See, they call, when you banana and all, weedicide you want to use, okay. You make a round around that. People don't want to do it nowadays. The farmers don't want to use weedicide. So they say automatically, now how to, so weeders is one. We go for any of the small robots in the agriculture. We need to BLDC motors because they are very efficient. and they don't need a service. If you go for AC motors or DC motors, brushes, you have to change. We come back to next one, which is the sensors. We'll come to see the input. The inputs. So we talked about till now. I go back and review back what all we learned about. We talked about display, and that's one output. We talked about keyboard, which is an input. Then we talked about relays to activate the power. That is two types of relay wheeler. That's again output. Then we talked about valves, solenoid valves, which is very important. Very, very important. Now, next comes to input. We are not going to cover all type of sensors. I'm just to give a glimpse only to you, idea. And I would ask now, Mukund, can you explain RTD and what is the temperature measurement sensor? What is the difference, please?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Syed. Yeah, now we are here on this slide regarding the temperature sensor. Now, RTD is basically a platinum-based temperature sensor. It varies the resistance with temperature. So, once it starts, we attach it to the heating body, the resistance will change. And when we say PT100, what it means is at 0 degrees centigrade, it will give you 100 ohms. So with all the coefficients and everything calculated, at 100 degrees centigrade, the resistance should be around 138.5 ohms. So between, let us say we want to measure the temperature between 0 and 100 degrees centigrade, it's very easy. Similarly, we have PT 1000. There, what it means is it is 1000 ohms at 0 degrees centigrade. Now, RTDs are generally used for a limited temperature range. Of course, we always specify from -200 to about 600 to 700, but the non-linearity creeps in, and you also have your self-heating problems, and they are not robust for field use. Now, coming to the next type is a thermocouple. Now, thermocouple is just two different metals joined together, and the effect is it will generate some millivolt at the open end. Now, this relationship has already been calculated, and we have different types of thermocouples, right from B, E, you can see it in the table, you have B, E, J, K, and others. And the temperature ranges are also provided. Linearity wise, when we see a thermocouple linearity is fairly linear. So it should not be an issue. A greatest advantage is there is no self-heating problem in a thermocouple, plus it is very robust. Now, the third type, what we have on this page is a thermistor. Now, thermistors are generally non-linear and they can be used in the limited area of application. In fact, the thermistor application is more towards our electronics part, where on the transformers or the motors we attach them so that it trips if there is a fault or an error in the temperature. Can we have the next slide, please? Yeah, Dr. Sir, I think you can carry on with this.
Yeah, okay. There is we covered about temperature sensors, which are based on resistor. Okay, the thermistor and RTDs, they vary the resistance depending on the heat. Thermocouple actually two elements when you join together, different elements when you join together and heat it, then it generates electricity. That's the principle. Now, there is another type available, which is semiconductor, which means you just give us power supply, 5 volts, and then it will give you output directly in voltage, how much is the temperature. So this is very popularly used LM35. It will go only 0 to 100 degrees Celsius, a little bit more, and you have different variations similar this semiconductor, which can go minus a little bit also. But they are not very good for the field purposes. Field purposes, you will not be able to use it because only certain applications you will use. Processing is excellent. This infrared, they are only good. I think this one we know already. In COVID times, we know we use everybody seeing everywhere. They are all working in the infrared. So they sense the heat and it's approximation only. They are not very accurate, but they are approximation, but they're good enough to use short distance. Infrared is used, for example, in furnaces to measure the temperature, very high temperature. You can't go and put anything there. So, but the infrared is, I see in a plant you can find the temperature. What I don't know the application really, what comes. But we have another one temperature measurements which are very integrated sensors, I will call. They are actually multiple environment sensor. So here you will see this one from Bosch, which can different model names are there. There are many companies, Sensitron, so many companies are making sensors. Because why I say is temperature, humidity, these are very important for agriculture. I mean, we have to know all the time. And somebody will come and say me, this one I used, it is not accurate. I mean, a lot of people will tell you, but there are sensors available to meet almost every need what we have. We have to have knowledge. For example, you want to have minus temperature, plus temperature field. For example, this is the sensor which is used in BISA farm. This sensor, this size is only 3 mm hole, and it has got a temperature, humidity, and as well as atmospheric pressure. Now, accuracy, if people talk about it, according to me, it gives almost like the data sheet says about 0.1 degrees, but I say 0.3, 0.5, you take it. And agriculture, most of the time, this is enough. You want to sense it more accurate, go for thermocouple, it will give more accuracy to you. Now, this is also another one, a low cost type, which very, very low cost type, which gives you temperature and humidity. You Google anything, you'll find all these things. And you know the advantage. These two people, all these guys, they use that I2C and SPI. I told you that nearby bus, from my lab, it is the nearest storeroom, local bus. So very easy to connect multiple devices in a small board. You can use it. Don't think one computer will do all the job. No. For example, one example I tell you, for ATM rooms, I make a device which will save the energy. Okay, we talk about 50% energy is saved. Electricity bill reduced by 50%. There I use 4 microcontrollers. There also I measure temperature, humidity, and I turn off the air conditioner, turn on the air conditioner. I also sense whether the person is present or not. When the person is not present, then different algorithms go through. The example why I'm telling is there are 4 microcontrollers. In an automobile, you'll find somewhere about 25, 30 microcontrollers. So agriculture engineers don't think these are limited. The microcontroller costs 100 rupees. One of the best ones, I would say, about the price. Pricing in 500. So anything you design cannot be more than difficult to become several thousand rupees total cost. So this is a temperature sensor. We come back to temperature sensor characteristics. So, sorry. Which is good. I think I will change afterwards. Thermistor is 55 to 125 degrees. And this is RTDs, thermocouples, semiconductor, temperature, what is the range it goes, minus 50 to 150. So, and this you can read. I'm not, I think, I would normally say, I think knowledge of temperature sensors are important for even whatever level of people we are talking. This is very important because it's integral part. Next, we come to the second one is about gas sensors. So this is another one important. See, we are talking about LPG, methane, ammonia, oxygen, CO2. I know some places they are trying to CO2 because if you give more carbon, the growth is better for a crop. And enclosed area, open area, you cannot put a carbon dioxide carbon, it will go away. But we have to measure sometimes. And many people want it. Even I like yesterday I told, this also wanted to measure the carbon dioxide. These engineers wanted to measure the CO2 level. There are sensors available for most of the gases, most of them. There are not all, I won't say, but I think we have to search. And they're all working very simple technique. Either they give analog output. So if they give analog output, connect your analog digital converter. So there you have to see the accuracy, resolution of your processor must have minimum 12 bit, which is 4,000 steps you'll get. So you want higher, you have to ask him to use a higher resolution. Analog converters available, analog digital, 24 bits available. Okay, 24 bits, very huge number. When you talk about 12 bits is 4,000 steps, 4096. Then 13 bit is 8000. 24 bits are available also. The speed will be less. When you go for higher resolution, you won't get so many samples in a second. But mostly in agriculture, we don't require very fast, except in processing applications. Now, we come to the sensors, gas sensors. The principle, at least 3 principles they are used: heat, temperature. These are all heat. So you actually Gaussian principle. Okay, the gas is there, it gets burned inside. There's a heater inside actually, and the fire will not come because you have a gas outside. That's all. This is the most of the CO, LPG, methane, all these very cheap sensors are available. You have electrochemical sensors. This is, for example, electrochemical. So they can be work for several years only, and then or it depends on also several hours. They give in hours or months or years to use. Then you have to throw it away. You have to buy because they are electrochemical. And there are some semiconductor sensors also available for that. So this you have to look at the lifetime of the sensor. Then next one is very important. Now we talk about particulate matter. That is this is a very important environmental sensor. People are looking now, at least in the offices everywhere, not in the agriculture stuff. So particulate matter is 2.5 micrometers, whatever micrometer you have. You get sensors that are quite cheap for this also. PM10 is quite cheap. You get in the market. They're like these boxes, like this PM10 comes. You can buy a sensor and put amplifier, or this one gives directly output. You can connect to your Arduino or Raspberry Pi, what they're talking. You can connect these things directly. And there are a lot of libraries available for this. This also electrochemical, you can directly connect it. They are available for particulate. Next, I think we require in some of the sensors, I think, in agriculture, when you talk about including processing and covering that area also, sensors use the PIR is a light sensor. PIRs will work only when the heat sensor, let us say, this was infrared sensors. Okay, so percent detection or anything, movement of heat, change of heat. It is a change of heat, not the absolute heat. So change of heat will detect these sensors. They normally work up to 3-4 meters. You have radar sensor. Is not exactly radar, but I think, like I told you in this whole webinar, I will use for people to understand rather than technically going. So radar sensors also can detect the movement of things. You can move anything also. It can sense. It's good, for example, in a conveyor belt or whatever you're using. You have auto interrupters which are available to you, which can measure whether object is coming in the front or not. Now, this all would have studied in somewhere in the colleges. So just to recall you, I'm repeating those things. We have next one is interesting is sensors for distance and motion. See, ultrasonic sensors. You see, the question is what accuracy we require, depending on the ultrasonic sensors are available. I have used ultrasonic sensors to measure the Yamuna water, how much is given to Delhi is using. So for that, they wanted this about 7-8 years back. So there are accurate sensors, the speed measurement available from Israel. We imported that, those things. They are all ultrasonic. So ultrasonic, this is the cheapest one. You have expensive one. Also, this is costing probably few hundred rupees, and you have up to few $1,000 also ultrasonic, depending on the height. So and the accuracy you want to have. They can measure exactly because they work on sound. The sound wave sending it and reflection coming it back. That's all. And ultrasonic is one of the biggest line. I think it's a lot of applications we are having on ultrasonic, and they're also we can use, especially I see it in you want to measure water tank height, anything. This type of low cost sensors are good enough. Good enough. You want accurate to measure, you go for expensive. Ultrasonic is very simple. It works on reflective principle. So it ultrasonic sound is sent and it gives a measure distance. You have next one is a proximity, how whether anything is moving, a wheel moving or proximity. Proximity sensors, magnetic type, it can be optical type, it can be capacitive type. So all three. So capacitive is anything, your hand has capacitance, anything has capacitance with something water content, everything coming inside, that is capacitive. And you have optical, which means anything goes, light is passed and come. And proximity with magnet, you've got a small magnetic also, it can be worked. We need to know there are sensors which are used for rotation. You want to measure the wheel, like tractor car, to measure the wheel, rotation sensors. There you have the magnetic sensors on all aspects. Hall effects are much more reliable. Actually, you have a magnet. This here is a magnet, for example, a coil. In the front, you have one IC there, semiconductor IC. From there, you take the signal. So it's very accurate. And the Hall effect is used for many purposes. For current measurements, they are used. They don't give only for you the speed of movement, and the current also they give. Optical, there are many types out there. I mean, one side is light is passed, next side. Reflective you have, or this is conductive, you conduct to the hole. This is used most of the places. Any moving items they are used. So these are all very cheap techniques. I think how to use it is very easy. This is something strain gauges and weight measurement. This is something I still recall the strain gauges what I used during my studies when I used to. It was really an experience which I can never forget in my life. That gave the actual interest for learning electronics. See, strain gauges are small, like wires like this, and on a plastic or let us say paper, it is embedded. So now when you really want to bend, you paste it. For example, here I show you. Here there is a hole here. This is a piece. Actually, there is a hole made here. Now here I paste it. So now I give the weight on both of here, this part and this part. There will be a strain here. It will move slightly, expand or contract. They will contract. That strain is measured. That's how we are using the PG principle. And here you paste it, and this is using a bridge. You have today load cells are very cheap, and you can make no need to make. Source sensor can be purchased very cheap, so no need to design. But there are certain applications you have to use strain gauges. You have to make. That will come next slide. But strain gauges for load cells, you get a lot of load cells available, very cheap, affordable. This is a challenge. Again, a challenge till now is you measure the actually torque. I remember my day when I tried to make the torque sensor for tractor wheels during my work in AIT. That was a real challenge. So you need an axle on the top. You have to fix the strain gauges like this. And torque sensing is done. Suppose here you see here, this is a rod axle which is rotating. The center here is a axis which is rotating. Now the strain gauges are mounted on the axis. So how the signal will come? You need a brushes. You need brushes. Slip rings they call them, or brushes. And this was problem always. But I remember in 1980, I used a capacitive pickup. Okay, at the time Dr. Gajan Singh allowed me to import that. So there are radio technology you can use, capacitive techniques. I'm talking about 80. Today, better technology available. Any torque measurement, you can do it fast now. It's not a question. It is difficult. We come back to flow measurement. This is another one of the area agriculture is really missing. Affordable is not there. For example, there's a turbine available. I remember very first when I started business, and I made for Firma Rao spraying systems in Germany. I was supplying. That's how this company came to business. And they were using the turbine flow sensors only for measuring the sprayer flow quantity, very accurate. We have to have some algorithm we used, and we could give 2,000 liters tank. The German farmers are funny guys. They don't want to measure it 1,990. They won't agree because it is 2,000 liters. I fill 2,000. How your device shows 1,990? It is possible to achieve with these turbines. But how? You have to be careful in turbine sensors. While starting and while stopping, it vibrates slightly. That you have to remove it. So there are techniques available. But the problem with the turbine sensors, Italy was one of the good companies other than Italy making the turbine sensors for agricultural purposes. They are not cheap either. So India, there are no companies available to make it cheaper solution. So turbine, I think, will have still in Indian agriculture we need. For example, irrigation, drip irrigation, or any precision irrigation. We have to measure the flow. I know besides using an expensive flow meter to measure it. I'll come back to technology. One is I told you right now. I'm telling you it's a turbine. It is good enough for larger volumes. Even turbines are used for even petrol and diesel in your vehicles. So it is not very inaccurate. Only question of how you write a program, how you understand the particular turbine characteristics, how you design it, and there you'll get the accuracy. Now, next one we come back to is the ultrasonic. Ultrasonic is here. I give you two types here actually. And this ultrasonic is energy is passed, ultrasonic signal is passed, and it gets reflected and comes out. This, for example, now IIT Mumbai, I know they are doing on for a house water meter. Already 500 meters, or one of my friend is doing for that. So house water meter, how to measure. So I just brief you this ultrasonic sensor. It's in trials. So they use a LoRa from here device, which will in a society, for example, in a society of building where you have in Bombay, Mumbai and all, to find out the water meter readings, wireless. So so the question is using ultrasonic and a wireless device. So and there are issues, problems will come with it. But agriculture farm, we can use this ultrasonic also, but the cost is slightly expensive than this. We have third type, which is very accurate, mass flow meters, what we call, or flow meters, which is electromagnetic. Okay, now compared to pricing range, if you want to talk, turbine you can make for example 2,000, 3,000 rupees. Ultrasonic 10, 15, 20,000 rupees. This one 70, 80,000 rupees. That's about the market rates for the similar comparable size. Approximate, I'm telling, not to hold me on later on. So this is one of the electromagnetic principle. It works. So it measures also the flow accurately. We don't require for the farms actually for research. Everything can use. They are used in big plants and also measure the flow, mass flow, not only gas, everything. Coming back to next one, we have the pressure measurement. This is also very important. We have, and pressure measurement, we have the first air pressure, then we have the water pressure. See, the pressure measurement is two ways. We have to measure pressure in agriculture, many areas, but also we have to remember we can measure depth also based on atmospheric pressure. Okay, how deep is the water in the tank, water in the well? So it's very easy. You see, like this one device, you just put with a cable inside a bore well. Okay, now you have to have that. It goes 300 feet down bore well, no problem. But the water height, how much it can measure? So that much water pressure. So it goes on something like starting from 10 meters, 20 meters. What are the technologies available here? So when you use for this is MEMS sensor, MEMS, MEMS. That's a micro electromechanical. This is a wonder which happened 10 years probably in the world in electronics. Very, very small. The capacitors, they make the size of something like 5 square centimeter size. They make MEMS sensors which can sense the pressure. But height is limited. 10 meters you can go, 20 meters, so 20 bar, 10 bar, 20 bar you can go, not more. Piezo ceramic can go still higher, which are used. And of course, strain gauge is the old ones which use for pressure. We come back to next one, the speed measurement. Speed measurement, we know radar sensors were very expensive before. For example, tractor you require, any mobile you require, you can use it nowadays. I remember I used a horn antenna from the high frequency Institute of Stuttgart, went there to find out to use for the agriculture purposes. But I think nowadays the technology is quite cheap. You can get probably in less than 1,000 rupees. You can make radar sensors available today. And I think forget my pricing. I told approximate in volume pricing. So don't take it as a whole. Then we have also another one is very important is MEMS sensors. What they have done is to measure the acceleration in 3 axes. These are very good. For example, I told animal heat detection. You can use it. You can find anything vibration comes for battery operated stuff. It will turn off automatically, turn on only when something moves. So these are very, very small. What I'm talking about, less than 10 mm by 10 mm size, all this stuff. And they're very cheap, very dirt cheap. They're in your cell phones already. So this is an application, anywhere you can use it for the agriculture application. Last one slide I'm going to show you about, sorry. Yeah.
Can we open for question and answer now? Only 5
minutes.
Yeah.
There's only one last one. See, GPS. Yeah. GPS. I want to know is a global positioning. Somebody talked about. We have low cost available for 2.5 meters accuracy we get, and we have the another one. We have Gagan is the Indian satellite system. GLONASS is the Russian system. Nowadays they are available. Now DGPS, AGPS is will not go detail because people are talking about tracking everywhere. DGPS when you go is the RTKS where you can measure the accuracy is almost in centimeters, 5 centimeters you can go. But you see the 2.5 meter accuracy is 50% CEP, which means 50% of the data only is 2.5 meters within that. Rest of them can be more. Now people have, they think GPS, GPRS is same. Just I want to tell those guys, GPRS is with the data to be sent, GPS is similar. Thank you. I think we close. I close with this one. And Dr. Indramani?
You can invite for some questions.
Very short question because tomorrow also we'll have, yeah.
Yeah,
Quick, please.
very
Dr.
short
Naresh.
questions. Yeah.
Quick. Another shot?
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, so Syed, one of the areas where sensors, on-site measurement of NPK is really a dire need because soil health is something which people are worried about. So
Yes.
if some people can take it up.
Yes, it is already, NPK actually, nitrogen sensors are easy. The basic elements are easy. They can be done. And they are having online testing only in Japan, they are trying it out. But to dynamically test is a problem. Actually, I remember Dr. Singh was telling me 10 years back whether he can make a kit to measure the soil electronically. Somebody has to work. Yes. Next question. Dr. Dilip Kumar, sorry, Engineer Dilip Kumar Kushava, make your question short. Hello. Okay.
Hello.
Yeah, tell me first, please.
Sir, my question is that the microcontroller which is fitted in Arduino board, and if we purchase separately that microcontroller only, is there any difference in that?
Yeah, of course. There's no problem. You can use any controller. The pricing is when you buy the board, maybe 300 rupees you pay. It has got other components inside. When you make yourself, the same board will cost you probably 150, 50% of the price, because the guy who sells needs a profit also. If you buy only the Arduino microcontroller, this is less than 100 rupees. Next question we'll take from question and answer. There is something question of ICR to fund the institute for this. This I think I'll leave it to concerned people. Polyhouse, he is talking about soil moisture sensors. Any other sensors are available. Soil moisture sensor is still an issue. We are all trying to find out a solution. We want you youngsters to work on that. We have got one question I can take from Madhumati, please. Can you ask question, Madhumati? Sangeeta Chopra,
I have a question.
please.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes,
Yes,
please go ahead.
Thank you for a good presentation, sir. My question is about the BLDC motors. So, would you have any idea about any air conditioners or refrigeration systems which have BLDC motors and can be directly run by DC?
It is BLDC directly run by DC. Nobody manufacturers don't give. You have to anyway that much current you must generate. What you are talking
Right.
about that much current you have to. Where you will
Yes.
generate that much current DC first of all. So so that is the problem. So they don't have, but you can buy the boards. You can buy the boards BLDC motors. Motor also you can get a spare and you connect your own DC source. That is not a problem because
Right.
absolutely no problem because you see solar pumps. They
Yes.
give you both. Even Government of India gives in both ways. Either use a normal induction motor or BLDC motor. Cost is almost the same. Yeah. So it's possible.
I will
Next, anybody?
conclude now.
Yeah,
Okay.
please.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, please.
Please. Thank you. Dr. Syed, today actually it was very good that you covered almost range of sensors, and as I said that it will continue tomorrow. And friends, tomorrow we are having a presentation on big data and data transfer in digital agriculture using unmanned aircraft system to optimize resources. And the speaker will be Dr. Ganesh Bora. He is associate professor at Mississippi State University, USA. So very good speaker and learned speakers. We will listen him tomorrow. And after that, we will continue our training session. Thank you for joining today. I'm told that 95 people were connected through Zoom, and more than 50 through your Facebook. So thank you. Why I'm mentioning these numbers, that we feel pleased if more and more people are taking advantage. Thank you all. And if Professor Singh want to say something,
Yes.
Professor Gajen Singh Saab. If not, then we conclude it here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
Can-
Soni and Dr. Syed, both.
Thank you. Thank you. Setu? Please.